The courtroom has become a stage for a scandal no one could have predicted. The glittering facades of Hollywood's favorite power couples are beginning to crack. And what's seeping out from behind the velvet curtains is darker than anyone imagined. While headlines scream of legal filings, shocking text messages, and bitter feuds, something deeper might be brewing beneath the surface, something more primal, more human. Jealousy. Yes, today we ask the question that's been whispered in elite circles and typed feverishly in online forums: is Ryan Reynolds' jealousy of Justin Baldoni the real catalyst for this courtroom war between Blake Lively and Baldoni? Is it possible that behind the carefully curated Instagram posts and red carpet handholds, a quiet rivalry has festered for years between these men, finally exploding into the public arena in the form of a high-profile legal battle? To understand the lawsuit, we must first understand the dynamics. Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni, and Ryan Reynolds were once part of what many in Hollywood called the Golden Circle. Friendly, admired, politically engaged, and highly marketable, they attended the same events, supported each other's work, and publicly celebrated each other's accomplishments. But insiders paint a more complex picture. Behind the scenes, tensions were quietly growing while Blake and Justin worked together on several creative pitches, including the now infamous Wayfarer project. Ryan remained notably absent from many of these conversations. At first, it was brushed off as scheduling issues or conflicting projects, but some close to the trio began whispering that Ryan didn't like how close his wife was getting to Baldoni. Sources say Ryan would often make subtle jabs about Justin in social settings, not outright hostility, but enough that people noticed. Comments like "must be nice to be everyone's favorite woke king," or "he's the kind of guy who thinks Instagram captions can fix the world" began cropping up in casual conversation. Was it jealousy, professional rivalry, or something more personal? Because here's what's also been revealed. Blake genuinely respected Justin. She saw him as someone who used his platform for purpose, not just PR. He was passionate about social causes, feminism, racial equity, and mental health. He wasn't afraid to be vulnerable. And to someone like Blake, who's spent her life around performative masculinity, Justin's authenticity was a breath of fresh air. Ryan, on the other hand, built his brand on humor and irreverence. He was beloved, yes, but not necessarily taken seriously when it came to serious issues. So when Blake began publicly praising Baldoni's work, collaborating on development ideas, and appearing more aligned with his values, Ryan reportedly felt undermined, not just as a husband, but as a man. It's in this context that the lawsuit begins to make a lot more sense. In early 2025, Blake Lively stunned the industry by filing a scathing civil suit against Justin Baldoni, accusing him of reputational sabotage and defamation. At the center of her claims was a failed production deal involving the Wayfarer project, which Blake claimed was a calculated trap designed to ruin her standing with major studios. Justin's team fired back hard, claiming that Blake had manipulated internal documentation, destroyed evidence, and acted in bad faith throughout the process. But what really shook the public was the filing of a counterclaim alleging that Blake was not acting independently, that she had been pressured, advised, and emotionally influenced by her spouse Ryan Reynolds throughout her legal campaign. That's when this case took on an entirely different tone. Suddenly, it wasn't just about intellectual property or contractual betrayal. It was about marital interference. Baldoni's lawyers argued that Ryan had a vested interest in Blake, severing ties with Justin, and used emotional leverage to ensure her compliance. Legal analysts were floored. These kinds of claims are rare, but Baldoni's team doubled down, offering to present private text messages, call logs, and even third-party witnesses who allegedly overheard Ryan expressing resentment toward Justin's growing closeness with Blake. And Blake, she didn't deny the emotional weight Ryan carried. In fact, her own deposition included several statements in which she said she felt conflicted about her husband's constant discomfort with her working relations. Hip with Justin, she described having to choose her battles and navigate the tightrope between personal loyalty and professional integrity. This wasn't a lawsuit anymore. It was a psychological drama being played out in court documents. Too many fans. Ryan Reynolds has always seemed like the confident, self-aware superstar who doesn't take himself too seriously. But if you ask some insiders, particularly those who worked with him during high-stress productions, the cracks in that image become more visible. There's a pattern of subtle competitiveness with other men. Blake has collaborated with directors, producers, actors. When Blake was cast in dramatic roles that required emotional depth, Ryan would sometimes post memes or sarcastic remarks about the serious actor phase she was going through. At first it seemed playful, but in retrospect, many of those jokes now read like veiled digs. And when Justin Baldoni entered the picture, things escalated. Multiple former colleagues say that Ryan felt like Justin was encroaching on his territory, not romantically but intellectually and emotionally. Baldoni had qualities that Blake admired deeply: compassion, vulnerability, purpose. And he was being positioned as the kind of Hollywood man who gets it, especially in the post-#MeToo era. Ryan, despite his massive success, didn't want to be upstaged by a man who wasn't playing by the old rules. That kind of threat is subtle but powerful. And when Blake began developing scripts with Justin, it became too much. Sources now say Ryan directly told Blake not to pursue certain projects if Baldoni was involved. She complied at first, but after a while the tension grew unbearable. Some suggest that the lawsuit was less about reclaiming a professional opportunity and more about symbolically severing the connection, a way to purge Baldoni from their lives for good. Once the legal documents were released to the public, the internet exploded. Suddenly #FreeBlake and #TeamJustin began trending side by side. Fans who had long admired Blake Lively were now asking why she was allowing herself to be weaponized in a personal vendetta, and Ryan, he went dark on social media. But then something strange happened. Publications began running soft pieces painting Ryan as a supportive husband standing by his wife in a difficult time. Paparazzi shots of the couple walking hand in hand appeared in tabloids. Friendly leaks suggested the couple was stronger than ever. This wasn't organic. It was PR damage control. And behind the curtain, Baldoni's team kept building their case, releasing a wave of supporting documentation that cast serious doubt on Blake's motives, and by extension Ryan's. One leaked email included a comment from Ryan to Blake that read, "I don't trust him, he's too perfect, he plays a role and you're buying into it." Was this the smoking gun many believe it was? The emotional undercurrent of the lawsuit became undeniable. This wasn't just about who had the rights to a project. This was about two men, one trying to protect his marriage, the other trying to protect his name, dragging a woman they both claimed to respect through hell in the process. As the trial progressed, more celebrities began choosing sides quietly at first, then more openly. America Ferrera and Gina Rodriguez, close to Justin from his Jane the Virgin days, publicly supported him. Kerry Washington and Reese Witherspoon reportedly reached out to Blake, privately urging her to settle the matter out of court. Taylor Swift, she went completely silent, refusing to publicly comment despite being best friends with Blake for years. Hollywood was split. Some believed Blake was being used. Others believed Justin was the one being maligned unfairly. But almost no one believed Ryan was innocent in all of this. The whispers only got louder about his controlling nature, his ego, his discomfort with strong women being close to strong men who don't play the Hollywood game. Some even began pointing to past interviews where Ryan would jokingly interrupt Blake or correct her stories. In a town built on image, perception is everything, and Ryan Reynolds' image, despite the charm, the wit, the quips, was starting to unravel. As we sit at the center of this chaotic legal storm, we're left with one lingering, undeniable question: was Ryan Reynolds' jealousy of Justin Baldoni the real reason behind this lawsuit? Looking at the timeline, the testimonies, and the emotional debris, the answer seems increasingly likely. When love, ego, and public image collide, someone always pays the price. In this case, the price may be Blake's credibility, Justin's reputation, and Ryan's carefully manicured persona. What was once a story about failed collaborations is now a chilling tale of control, resentment, and betrayal. And as the court deliberates, one thing has become painfully clear: this was never just about a project. This was about power, about emotion, about a man who felt threatened not because his wife was unfaithful, but because she admired another man's soul in ways he couldn't handle. It's the kind of drama no screenwriter could dream up, because it's real. Now that we've walked through the entire sordid tale, uncovered legal filings, parsed through insider leaks, explored emotional entanglements, and examined the egos of some of Hollywood's biggest names, we're left with a picture far more complex than any headline can capture. What started as a mysterious lawsuit between Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively has evolved into something deeply personal, deeply human, and deeply unsettling. So was it really just about a failed project, or was the project just collateral damage? In a psychological tug-of-war between two men, one battling for relevance, the other defending his peace, and a woman stuck in the middle, forced to navigate the emotional fallout in front of the entire world, we can't ignore the undeniable patterns. Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively had a working relationship grounded in mutual respect. Their creative synergy was lauded by peers. They were poised to create something meaningful, even groundbreaking. But right as their professional ambitions began to merge, everything unraveled with stunning precision, almost as if someone had deliberately pulled the rug out from under them. Enter Ryan Reynolds. For years, Reynolds has been the golden boy of Hollywood, Witty, charming, marketable, and beloved, he's carved a niche out of self-deprecating humor and social media banter. But beneath the punchlines, there's a growing narrative that points to a darker truth. Ryan doesn't like to be challenged. He doesn't like to lose control. And he certainly doesn't like watching his wife emotionally or professionally align with a man like Justin Baldoni. Because Baldoni in many ways represents what Reynolds is not. He's serious, soft-spoken, idealistic, and unflinchingly principled. While Ryan built his persona on irreverence, Justin built his on purpose. That contrast alone was enough to make them adversaries, even if silently, even if unconsciously. As the legal battle unfolded, something became painfully clear. Ryan's jealousy wasn't just speculation. It was written between the lines of deposition transcripts embedded in court exhibits, echoed in the strained body language of public appearances. Every statement Blake made during the proceedings about her emotional conflict, every leaked message from Ryan questioning Justin's perfect image, every industry source whispering about Ryan's distaste for their working relationship. It all adds up, and here's where it gets tragic. Blake Lively, a woman who has built her brand on independent strength and authenticity, may have found herself trapped in a domestic dynamic she couldn't fully control. Not because Ryan is overtly manipulative in the way tabloids might portray, but because his influence is quieter, more insidious. The way he reportedly advised her against collaborating with Baldoni. The way he allegedly withdrew emotional support when she pushed back. The way his own insecurities may have created a psychological environment where Blake was forced to choose between professional freedom and marital harmony. If that's true, then this lawsuit isn't just a legal squabble, it's a case study in emotional coercion. And Justin, he didn't just lose a project. He lost his professional credibility in certain circles, he lost collaborators, he lost the narrative. Despite being seen as a champion of empathy and emotional honesty, he's now entangled in a public relations nightmare that challenges everything he stands for. What does that say about Hollywood? What does it say about the cost of integrity? It tells us this: even in an industry built on image, the truth has a way of bleeding through the surface. People are beginning to see through the curated perfection of power couples and recognize the flaws, the fragility, and the fear that exists behind the scenes. And perhaps that's the most haunting part of this story, because if Ryan Reynolds truly played a role intentionally or not in pushing this lawsuit forward, then we're not looking at a marriage defending itself from outside forces. We're looking at a marriage desperately preserving the illusion of control, and that's a tragedy. Blake Lively's lawsuit may continue to wind its way through the courts. More documents may leak, more testimonies may surface. But no matter how this ends legally, the emotional verdict is already in. This was never just about business, it was about identity, insecurity, and emotional ownership. It's about a man who couldn't stomach his wife admiring another man's soul. It's about a woman caught between her own ambitions and her husband's emotional boundaries. It's about another man, one who tried to create something meaningful, who was destroyed by whispers and jealousy instead. And if you're wondering whether this kind of toxic triangulation is rare, think again. Hollywood is full of stories like this. Stories that never make the headlines because the NDA letters hold the lawyers smooth things over and the actors pretend everything's fine on set. But this time the mask slipped, the cracks showed, and the world got a glimpse at just how messy things can get when egos collide and reputations are on the line. So yes, jealousy may not be the entire reason for the lawsuit, but to say it had nothing to do with it, that would be willful blindness. In the end, what this case reveals is bigger than any one project or lawsuit. It reveals how power operates in relationships. It shows us the quiet wars being fought behind the smiles. And it forces us to ask the uncomfortable question: when is protecting your marriage no longer about love but about control? As for Ryan Reynolds, only he knows what his true intentions were. Maybe he was just being protective, maybe he genuinely saw red flags in Baldoni, maybe he acted out of fear, not malice. But even if that's true, the damage is done. The ripple effects have already transformed careers, relationships, and public opinion. And as for Blake, if she ever finds the courage to break her silence fully, we may yet learn just how deep this rabbit hole goes. But until then, the court of public opinion is watching, and the verdict is already writing itself. This wasn't just a lawsuit, this was a reckoning. What if the most shocking lawsuit in Hollywood right now isn't really about business contracts or creative control, but something far more emotional? What if it's not about who owns a project, but about who owns the narrative and who's allowed to be emotionally close to whom in a town obsessed with image? Welcome to the legal war between Justin Baldoni and Blake Lively. On the surface, it's a dispute involving defamation claims, derailed production deals, and APR fallout that's drawn the eyes of the entire industry. But behind the curtains, something much more volatile may be playing out, something most outlets don't have the nerve to touch jealousy. Specifically the alleged jealousy of Ryan Reynolds, the beloved sarcastic crowd-pleasing husband of Blake Lively, toward none other than Justin Baldoni, the earnest, soulful actor-director best known for bringing emotional vulnerability to masculinity in Hollywood. You read that right. More and more insiders, commentators, and even quiet voices inside the courtroom are beginning to ask the same question: is Ryan Reynolds' deep discomfort with Baldoni at the center of this entire legal mess? Think about it. Blake and Justin weren't just colleagues, they were collaborators. They were building something creatively, artistically, and professionally. There was a time not long ago when the two were preparing to co-produce a project that Hollywood insiders said could be Oscar bait. Their chemistry, their respect for one another, and their shared commitment to meaningful storytelling made them a power duo in the making. But then, without warning, that project collapsed. Sources vanished, meetings were canceled, investors pulled out, and then the real bombshell hit: a lawsuit. Justin Baldoni, the man known for speaking truth, transparency, and empathy, filed a lawsuit against Blake Lively, a woman he had once praised as one of the most talented and emotionally intelligent performers in the industry. At first glance, it made no sense until the documents started leaking, until the depositions revealed private tensions, until the public began to put the puzzle together. And now the spotlight is swinging to someone who wasn't even listed as a plaintiff or defendant: Ryan Reynolds. You see, this isn't just a case of two collaborators falling out. It's a case of a marriage that may have been strained behind the scenes by rising suspicion, emotional control, and fragile ego. It's about a man who, according to multiple sources, did not like how close his wife was getting to Baldoni creatively or emotionally. And when powerful men in Hollywood feel threatened, they don't always yell, they pull strings. They quietly advise, they call in favors, and sometimes they make sure the competition is no longer welcome in the room. This isn't gossip. This is shaping up to be one of the most emotionally revealing lawsuits Hollywood has ever seen, because it exposes something rarely discussed in public: that jealousy doesn't just destroy friendships, it can derail careers. That power doesn't always come from lawyers and money, it often comes from manipulation cloaked as protection. That even in a town as fake as Hollywood, emotional insecurity is very, very real. So the question becomes, did Blake Lively truly believe Justin Baldoni wronged her? Or did she become a pawn in a much larger game, subtly pushed by a husband who didn't like the way her eyes lit up when she talked about another man's vision? Was this lawsuit born from betrayal or born from control? And is Ryan Reynolds the man whose persona is built on humor and humility, harboring a jealousy so toxic it could burn down everything his wife was trying to build? This isn't just a scandal. This is a mirror held up to fame, marriage, ego, and control. A mirror we're not used to looking into because it's easier to believe in fairy tales than it is to face the truth about what really happens when the cameras stop rolling. We're diving deep into court filings, celebrity body language, leaked texts, and the explosive theory that Ryan Reynolds may be the hidden hand behind one of Hollywood's messiest legal battles. Because when it comes to power, possession, and public image, jealousy might be the most dangerous motive of all. Let's unravel it.